All right. So in the north, you have this transition to private property, which leads to these like small scale family farms, um, where the farm is owned by the household, and they grow crops basically for themselves and a little bit for market. Now, the south is, as we know, a different story. Okay. And so, initially slavery is legal throughout the colonies. Um, but there's really no use for it in the North as an institution, in that we have small scale family farms where the people are working the fields essentially by themselves, and it's just there's no economic imperative for slavery. And in throughout the New World, throughout the Americas, it's really in the sugar colonies where you see slavery being used. Um, it's your southern farms that eventually develop into economies of scale, where there's like these large scale plantations where they can essentially their output goes up exponentially as they add more labor. And so it's really depends on the type of crop. And so you can see again the initial endowment shaping the institutions, where Georgia really begins as a free state, um, but the settlers slowly adopt slavery as their plantations grow larger. All right, and so we have these kind of large scale crops: tobacco, rice, indigo, with large farms. Okay. And as we've covered before, these are the prosperous colonies in terms of these are the farms that people are growing wealthy off of. So your plantation owners are your initial elites in the America, what would become the United States of America. And they're also populous. Okay, so they have like half the population. Now this later reverses, but initially these are where you have your large scale plantation, your rich plantation owners, and they're using economies of scale in agriculture. Okay. So these are all more efficient. You can't really do small scale farming here. You can't do like your own little tobacco farm or your own little rice farm. Whereas in the north, you're primarily growing wheat, which can be done at the household level. So really, the endowments are determining the type of farm, whether it's small or large, and then that in turn informs whether the settlers used slavery or not. So you have these initial two differences between the North and the South that we've kind of covered previously. And then, of course, the US really increases in size with the Louisiana Purchase. And then, so here you have the territorial acquisitions. So here you have, essentially this is bought from France. Texas joins here. You have the Mexican American War adds this, and then this is added in 1846 from the British. Okay. Of course, all this land is essentially taken from the indigenous population. Now, when this land is added, the question is, what are we going to do with all this land in terms of how who gets it, who has the right to this land. As we've covered in many Latin American countries, essentially the land is ceded to the existing elites. There's a small group of elites, and they just acquire large scale land holdings, when the interior is added to the country. This happens in Mexico. This happens in Argentina as well. So this one question is like, who gets the land? How are we going to decide like who owns this land? And then the second question is essentially, okay, once this land's added, what's going to be the political organization? Are there going to be their own states? Are they going to be added to the existing states? Okay. Um, and so those are sort of the decisions that need to be made. All right, I'm going to take a break here before we go into the move westward.